Hello, y'all. I'm back with another Teacher Talk Sunday. And today I am talking about what I think is still one of the best kept secrets when it comes to education, which is flexible seating. So let's jump right in. Hello, my name is Vimbo, and on Sundays I come to you with Teacher Talk videos. These are videos geared towards helping you if you are an educator watching this story. I worked in education for just about a decade, close to a decade. I taught for several years. I was actually an elementary school principal for 5 years. My master's is in K-12 leadership and administration. And I love sharing what I learned from my time as an educator. Even though I'm no longer working in education, I still feel like just talking about it because they say it often that once a teacher, always a teacher. It's just kind of thing they say, whoever they is. But I love sharing what I learned from my years in education, and I kind of still keep in touch with all that's going on in that world. So today we are talking about flexible seating. So I wanted to share with you 3 quick reasons why you should do flexible seating in your classroom. And I would suggest this really I'll be speaking from an elementary perspective, but I think it's still very effective in a middle school classroom and a high school classroom. So I'll share with you 3 quick reasons why you should do flexible seating, and then also some tips on how to get started, even if you don't have a super huge budget for your classroom. So let's jump right in. So the first reason that you should do flexible seating in your classroom is that there is so much evidence that allowing students to move more helps them to concentrate better. So a little bit, if you've never heard of flexible seating, which if you're an educator watching this, you've heard of what flexible seating is, but it's kind of that concept of the Starbucks classroom where kids can sit on a couch like I'm sitting at. They can sit at their desks. They can sit in spots on the carpet. They can sit on the floor. You might have an exercise ball some of your students can sit in. Or honestly, they can sit at a desk if that works best for them. Or they can sit at a stand at a standing desk. So flexible seating is exactly what it sounds like. The student has some level of choice in flexible seating. And this reason, number one, that movement helps students, as in, if a child is sitting on a bouncy ball and they're able to bounce while listening to you, this helps with concentration. I saw this firsthand when I was teaching 2nd grade. I had the sweetest young boy who was the brightest 2nd grader, one of the brightest 2nd graders I ever taught. Super great when I was teaching in South Florida. And he was just like such a firecracker. I think that year I had, I want to say 24 students, early elementary. So going home every single day exhausted. And 90% of my exhaustion was this child. And he was still the sweetest kid. I mean, I still love that kid to this day. Years ago. So he's probably got to be is he in high school? He was in 2nd grade. He's probably in high school now, getting ready to graduate. But anyway, that kid, he had ADHD. He was diagnosed with ADHD. Super bright, super brilliant. And he was actually excellent at math. So he was really good at even without me asking, just helping other students around him in a way that he could explain it. Anyway, just phenomenal student. But he was really struggling with other subjects that he didn't really find interesting. So if you know anything about ADHD, it's not that these students who have ADHD can't concentrate. One symptom of ADHD is often they have a hyper concentration, or they can concentrate really well on what they find interesting. So he found math interesting, but language arts, social studies, all these other subjects weren't super interesting. So when I introduced flexible seating into my classroom and he got an exercise ball, when I tell you guys that just by him bouncing, it took some getting used to seeing a kid bouncing. And I had to position him so he wasn't in front of other kids distracting them, as they faced me or faced whatever we were working on. But it was a game changer as far as just his attention, because he constantly had this need to move around. He had definitely the hyperactivity part of that ADHD diagnosis. And so, yeah, I saw, that's my little anecdotal tale of how movement helps children and students to concentrate. That being said, there is a phenomenal book by Dr. John Rady. It's called Spark, The New Science of Exercise. I would 100% recommend reading it or listening to it on audiobook if you are an educator. It's just really fascinating. A lot of it centers around like the science of how just movement helps us in general, but there are whole sections of that book that talk about education. And so I think especially for our more active students, male and female, I think it just helps them to concentrate. Movement helps. The second reason that flexible seating is so fantastic is even from the youngest of children, and I've seen this teaching pre-K and kindergarten, even the youngest children appreciate choice. So the second reason is that choice is a powerful tool in the classroom. There is so much that our students do not get to choose. They don't necessarily get to choose when they wake up in the morning, maybe not even necessarily what they wear, if their parents buy their clothes. Like, students live in this world, we often forget because we're not kids anymore, that sometimes their choices are very limited. And that can be super easy for some kids who are like rule followers like I was. I was like, okay, well, these are my limited choices and I'll live within those bounds. But for some kids, it's really constricting. And so once again, there is research out there that shows that the more choices you're able to have students make in their education, the more personal ownership they have of that. So it's something as simple as where they can sit. That still gets them more invested in the learning process. And I'm also going to link some articles below this video just so you can read more about flexible seating for yourself. Make that educated decision. But I think the combination of the fact that movement helps the brain and then also that choice helps our students be invested, I think that's a selling point enough. The third reason that I think flexible seating is just such a game changer in the classroom is there is something about students making that choice, oftentimes involving movement in their learning and in their education, that sparks creativity. I don't know if you're like me, but like they say this is something I've heard before about how like a lot of us often have our best thoughts like in the shower or just random times, right? Like you're on a walk or you're like, I don't know, sitting on the couch or you're lying down and you're not maybe intentional being super mindful, but just by a change of scenery, now suddenly you have this creative thought, right? So the same thing I've seen in the classroom, if we're having a writing assignment and the students are just stuck in a rut, sometimes just by sitting in a different part of the classroom and maybe looking out the window or looking through the classroom door into the hallway, this thought sparks in their brain and they're like, oh, I should write about this. So it's not, if you're an educator, you know, it's not every day you have the light bulb moments, but when they come, oh boy, are they beautiful. So those are the three really quick reasons for why you should do flexible seating. And now I want to tell you how to do it without breaking the bank. So first of all, obviously, I would recommend implementing flexible seating. Well, first, like before implementing it, first of all, make sure that your administration is okay with you implementing it. This could go both ways. I've taught primarily or entirely in the private school system. Though if you're teaching in public school, your rules might be a little bit different or you might be a little bit more limited. So just know, like, it's always a good idea to let administration know. For example, if you're doing flexible seating the entire day and not just parts of your day, you'll allow students to have that choice. So let's say you're doing flexible seating the whole day and you have 20 students. and now you don't need 10 of those desks. That is something that your administration needs to know, because for storage purposes, it's always better to let them know. So that would be my first tip, is get your admin on board, come with the research of why it's good, and just let them know this is what you're trying to do. The second thing is, obviously, prioritize using any budget that the school gives you. I'm a big advocate for educators already don't get paid enough. We all know this. If you're in the United States, it is not the highest paying profession. And so typically, I think on average, a public school teacher in the United States gets $200 a year. You may be in a district that you get more. You may be in a district that you get less. That's just the average. So with that being said, use those resources that are available. But the third tip I would give is be resourceful with your community. You can use websites such as Donors Choose. You can also, since the holiday season is coming up, if you're watching this video as I'm putting it up, then instead of parents will often give a teacher a gift, which I think is still good. So please, if you like your little Starbucks gift card or Target gift card or coffee mug that parents are normally going to get you, that is perfectly fine as well. But if you're like me, I had 50 mugs, and at some point you're like, I cannot have enough friends over at the same time, and I can't drink out of all of these mugs at the same time. So I have done a few purges of those mugs as we've moved from place to place. So if you don't need another mug, it might be nice even now to go on Amazon, or there's lots of ways you can make, I just made a gift list on Gift Hero, like a wish list, and you can share that with parents. You can say, hey, here are some wobble chairs, and here are some, I think they're called kick bands, you can put at the bottom of chairs that come with desks, bean bags, you can put couches, you can put these lower and high ticket items, because maybe you want 4 wobble chairs and 4, my little wobble friend is falling, but maybe you want 4 wobble chairs or 4 bean bags, or even groups of numbers of things. Those add up quickly, because if you're buying them from popular education stores like Lakeshore Learning or even Amazon, they're not always the cheapest. If you're getting a little pillow, those circle round cushions that you put on the floor, those may not be the most expensive, but a standing desk could be $100 to $200, right? Even if they're just the individual ones. So I would highly recommend creating a wish list, and then honestly, this depends on your comfort level. You can either just circulate it among the parents already in your classroom. I know even if you're in public school, it's sometimes hard for parents to contribute, and I hate to pass the bill on to parents, but to be fair, they're the people who are going to be most interested in their kids having flexible seating. And you can explain to them why you think this is a great thing. Also, if you're comfortable, you can share it on Facebook. I have a couple of educator friends who shared their wish lists at the beginning of the school year on Facebook, and we contributed what we could. And it's also nice giving to people So you may have friends and family who might be willing to invest in your classroom. So depends on your comfort level, but definitely don't go bankrupt. Another tip I would say is go slowly. So if I were doing this again, I might start by, bringing some furniture I even have at home, and maybe then slowly replacing that with stuff that is specifically school stuff. So don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money to make a comfortable, flexible seating classroom. I would say the first time I did it, maybe I spent a couple $100, but that was with 4 or 5 different seating options. Like I said, I got a couple of exercise balls with the pumps. I got a couple of the circles that kids can sit on, the pads on the floor, and different things like that. So just don't feel like you have to go out and spend $1,000. Still, in this economy, a couple $100 is a lot, but there's that. The final tip I have is, if you're looking at implementing flexible seating in your classroom, I would absolutely say don't feel like you have to do it the entire day, and don't feel like you have to throw away all of your rules for the classroom. Still have procedures. I've seen a lot of teachers who do flexible seating that one of their rules is at any time the teacher can move you. So you're getting the students to understand, hey, I'm trusting that you can still accomplish the task at hand. You can still be in charge of your own learning at this place in the classroom. But we all know, like, the two best friends that always find each other, sometimes they can handle sitting next to each other and sometimes they can't. So don't feel like as a teacher, oh man, if I do flexible seating, it's either I do flexible seating and it's fun and the kids are free, but I have no control, or I don't do flexible seating. That's a false dichotomy. There are more than those options. It can be flexible, and also you can have logical consequences for the students and gradually lead into it. So I would recommend, if you're implementing this mid-year, maybe you decide, hey, come January, we're going to try flexible seating. Maybe try it for one period. Maybe say if you have a self-contained classroom where you teach all of the subjects, maybe say during reading time and writing time, that is the time during the day when we have flexible seating. And just like any other classroom procedure, go through the I do, we do, you do release of power. Show them how to do it with them through guided practice, and then let them practice it. So don't, wake up one day and say, flexible seating, that's a surefire way for it to fall apart. But if you introduce this over a couple weeks, maybe a month, depending on how young your students are, you can get to the point where students know what is expected, just like your other classroom, policies and procedures, and can actually really thrive in this setting. So if you've ever done flexible seating with your classroom, please comment below. I would love to know what your experience is. If you have any tips for how to get flexible seating for someone's classroom, please also comment that below. I will be back with another Teacher Talk Sunday next week. I also do videos on Wednesdays called Vimbo's Wednesday Word. And so those are just general videos that sprinkle a little bit of sunshine in your life. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you again next Sunday. Bye-bye.